Welcome, everyone. It is 1 o'clock. We're going to give everyone about 2 more minutes to join, and then we will hop into the webinar. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Artificial Intelligence in Legal. I am Britta Horman, a member of MetroTech's marketing team, helping to host this event. Today, we are joined by 2 speakers. First, I would like to introduce Brian McGovern. Brian is a MetroTech Executive Director and former Legal Chief Data Officer at AIG. Brian is incredibly passionate about improving efficiencies within organizations and leveraging his Six Sigma Black Belt certification to bring real quantitative value to an organization's functions. His broad experience and familiarity with the many different legal management and workflow platforms provides us a unique view into how our clients and the market think about technology. Stephen O'Donnell is MetroTech's Head of Product Marketing for Legal Operations. Stephen originally came from Progressive Insurance, where he spent 15 years as a product and market analyst. Yes, he knows flow from the commercials. Stephen joined MetroTech in 2011 and leads our company's efforts around creating content for legal operations. A frequent speaker at MetroTech events, Stephen spends considerable time researching the market and technology trends to understand how our products can address legal department challenges. Before we get started, I want to set a few housekeeping items to help the webinar run smoothly. First, we are recording the webinar. Following the webinar, we will post the recording to the MetroTech website for attendees to view. Next, we have some fantastic content prepared for you today. To ensure we get through that content, we ask you to submit any questions you have via the WebEx Q&A feature. We will attempt to address your questions at the end of the session as time allows. If there are any questions we do not get to, we will follow up with you directly after the webinar. Finally, if you have any technical difficulties, please let us know via the chat feature. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Stephen.
Britta, thank you for such a nice introduction, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us on today's webinar. Today we're going to start by giving you guys a little background and really kind of help you contextualize AI, artificial intelligence, based on the research in the market. What do people mean when they say AI? There are many flavors of artificial intelligence, and you will see how companies are making the claim of having it by touching on any of those flavors. We're going to then talk about some of the different AI use cases in legal. Where's the most promise? What makes a lot of sense for this emerging technology? And then we're going to talk a little bit of the maturity model of how to use AI in legal. So the promise of artificial intelligence is incredible. And these stats that were pulled from Gartner Research actually show that. By 2022, information will proactively find more employees more often, thereby providing the business insight needed to progress decisions and actions and reduce relative searching by 20%. That is only 4 or 5 years away. That is a huge number. By 2021, 40% of new enterprise applications will have AI technologies, and AI augmentation is expected to generate $2.9 trillion in business value. However, that is the promise of AI. Let's talk a little bit about what are the temporary problems of AI right now. Only 4% of respondents to the 2018 CIO survey to Gartner actually have invested or deployed artificial intelligence. So at this point in time, the actual number of people that have implemented and used this or organizations is really low. 54% of AI technologies are not expected to reach the maturity and deliver reliable productivity until 2022 or later. And there are thousands of vendors and applications that describe themselves as AI vendors. So how do we get there from there? Really, the sheer number of supposed AI providers is staggering, given how few people have actually bought anything. I would tell each of you to beware of technology descriptions that sound close to actual technology terms, but are actually impossible to define marketing words. Things like core language processing or language analysis technology should elicit a more in-depth conversation and questions from yourself. There are a lot of tech providers out there that are taking advantage of the hype around AI by claiming to have AI capabilities, which creates confusion for end-user organizations looking for AI solutions. They're focused on marketing AI as a technology rather than articulating how it can actually improve your business outcomes, which makes it difficult for organizations to judge the value of AI aspect as a product or an emerging technology itself. And many AI solutions require significant data, structured and unstructured, to build and train the models, but that data may not be available or collected. So here's a hint for all of you. If your proposed AI technology provider has all marketing and sales exec jobs posted on their website instead of ones for engineers and data scientists, you might want to just take a closer look. And that is probably a good rule of thumb for whenever you start engagement. Let's talk a little bit more about where we are today. So this chart, also from Gartner, shows kind of the material impact of technologies in different parts of an enterprise organization. And the dark blue bar on the left for each of these different functional areas is artificial intelligence. The one next to it is blockchain, and then there's a number of other emerging technologies as well. And what you see here is that the department where this is supposed to have, the area where this is supposed to have the most impact is product and services. Then marketing, sales, and customer experience. Then production and services delivery operations. Then supply chain. Then management and risk management and administration. So where is legal? I mean, this chart shows this, but legal is not even there. It's not there at all. So even though the chart is showing the expected material impact of emerging technologies, legal does not appear on the chart. And as we know, and probably have felt before in our career, legal historically has been thought of as out of the loop and slow to adopt. But at the same time, artificial intelligence is actually really well suited for the legal technology space. We have tons of data. We touch every part of our business, and these technologies are but we have so much unstructured data, while understanding and controlling risk made the rapid adoption of new technology challenging in the past. These new tools are of huge benefits to most legal departments, and we can use them effectively. Once we have the tools to analyze the data, then the promise of AI can be actually realized by legal. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Brian to talk about what AI is and what it is not.
Great intro. Thank you, Stephen. So what AI isn't? AI is not easier. It's not easy yet. It's certainly not a silver bullet that's going to be solving all of our problems for it. It's not a tool to do some basic things right, like keeping our data clean, and I'm going to talk more about that later. It's not drag and drop and instantly user-friendly yet. It's not self-aware. We have to tell it what we want it to do, and we have to point it in the right direction. And it's certainly far from being a replacement for lawyers. We sometimes assume because AI can solve mathematical problems and answer questions posed in English that it understands what it's doing, but it does not. It's simply processing the words we've used and match them against potential answers. So what is AIG, or what is AI right now? It's a great tool to unlock data and value that's been previously unusable, especially in corporate legal departments. It's great at processing large volumes of data. It is a key technology to refocus our efforts on high-value work. It's a faster way to get better results using what data and value that we previously couldn't access, and it makes analytics and visualization dramatically more powerful because of the types of data and the volume of data that's now available for analysis. We mentioned that there's several subsets of AI, and they're complementary to each other. I'm going to spend a few minutes explaining what they are so we can think about how to augment our own departments with technology. We're going to have a good basic grasp of the key terms and concepts. I'm going to focus on 3 subfields of AI that can deliver value to most legal departments in the short term. The first is natural language processing, or NLP. NLP is a set of tools that allow computers to process and do calculations on unstructured language. Structured data are things like numbers, dates, items in a pull-down box. Those are all the types of things you're using in your current analytical tools to roll up costs, report on savings, etc. Unstructured data is everything else. It's your notes, the comments, the emails, the documents, and on and on. It's actually about 95% of the data that you keep in your systems and your work environment day to day. An example of natural language processing: in our personal lives, algorithms are looking for patterns in our user posts across Twitter and Facebook and other social networks to understand how people feel about a specific brand or product or concept. In legal, over 90% of the data, or 95% of the data we have in our organizations is unstructured. Those notes, those briefs, those updates, the case law, the e-billing descriptions. How can we use natural language processing to gain greater value from that data? NLP is a set of tools. There are a few steps for natural language processing to bring structure from the unstructured data. That includes the computer determining the parts of speech, determining parts of speech for each word or context. For example, set could be a noun, a verb, or an adjective, and that has dramatic changes on what that word means in our unstructured data. It parses the data, parses the language. It determines the grammatical analysis of a given sentence so it can understand the meaning behind it. And it clusters words to form statistical models that you can blend with your structured data to drive great value. The second area is machine learning. That's computers learning from data with minimal programming. For example, in your personal life, you get recommendations from your services like Amazon and Netflix. In the financial arena, machine learning predicts bad loans, finds risky applicants, and generates credit scores. In the legal space, e-discovery predictive coding is a well-used technique to find relevant documents using exemplars. For example, giving the computer examples of relevant documents that can dramatically reduce the need for human review and is dramatically more powerful than the traditional keyword searching. Machine learning has a few different versions of machine learning, including supervised learning, where the computer's analyzing inputs and maps to target gold standard output. It's reinforced learning, that the outputs are refined dramatically, not new inputs. And the classification and regression, where classification algorithms decide which bucket work belongs in, such as a spam filter. Regression uses a statistical model and provides a numerical output. Both are useful in legal. For example, if deciding a line entry element is billable or not, and determining law firm performance. The last one we're going to talk about today is robotic process automation. This automates business workflows and clerical processes by emulating human interaction within graphical user interfaces. For example, we can have a custom email query processing to sort out most common queries, and automatically respond with a response containing information while forwarding non-standard inquiries on for processing. That has 3 different types of versions. We have active learning, where the software watches the humans. We have virtual workstations, where the robots are running in its own virtual workspaces without monitors and has its own credentials, its own dedicated workspace. And they're used to do process automation, where the robot's performing business processes For example, opening up emails and adding invoice to matters, and doing financial manipulations in Excel and forwarding them to AP systems. This is focused on areas where integrations are impossible with higher volumes of what would be considered low-value routine work. But we're still early, and we named this slide, "Don't Despair the Hype." It means that we're going to grow into this technology. This chart from Gartner shows a snapshot of the general sentiment of consumers on AI technologies, from innovation trigger on the bottom left there, to the peak of inflated expectations, the trough of disillusionment, the slope of enlightenment, and the plateau of productivity. Humorous titles aside, there is a lot of value as we look at how those symbols on the curve show the estimated time until the technology reaches that elusive plateau of productivity. No surprise that tools like knowledge management, which have been around for a while, are in the trough. And notice most of the timelines are consistent with what we spoke about since the beginning of the presentation and won't meet their full delivery of productivity for a few years. Notice full NLP is expected to be 5 to 10 years away from that plateau. But that doesn't mean there's an ability to start making targeted use of the tools now. I like this graph because it reminds us that these tools are still very new, especially in legal. Just as it's taken a long time for many of the technologies we now take for granted. Take, for example, cell phones. The early ones were huge and had to be plugged into your car battery. They're outrageously expensive to buy and even more so to you. I remember years ago when I was going to rent a video at Blockbuster. Tells you how long ago that was. And there was a person in the store using a cell phone to ask someone at home what movie to rent. I'd never seen something so absurd. Now there isn't a person on the call today that doesn't have at least one cell phone on their desk or in their pocket. And in fact, I'm using mine to broadcast this webinar. By learning about AI tools now, understanding how and when to use them, we're going to shorten all of our journeys to the plateau of productivity and drive value for our organizations. This is another great graphic from Gartner, and it's a good two-dimensional view of the many different types of AI with some general categories on their impact in our lives and their timeline to widespread impact. I'm not going to read all the items listed, but some of the circle ones are interesting to consider. I think all of us that commute to work in the morning are looking forward to self-driving cars. I've driven a level 2 car on long trips, and it's a great help. Level 3 autonomy cars in 5 to 10 years will be able to drive in many scenarios and even more scenarios. We'll be able to prompt drivers when they encounter situations doesn't know what to do. Level 4 cars in that more than 10-year box are going to be able to do all the driving that humans do in a predefined geography. In our legal departments, we can see the approach of machine learning, natural language processing, and predictive analytics on the horizon. Technology is already available to start driving value using these tools. While the usability isn't easy yet, the ability to deliver tangible business value in legal has clearly begun. So, what's going to be the key to driving value in legal is to realize that business value. AI technologies must be developed to deliver specific, measurable business outcomes for targeted use cases. And that's what we're going to spend the next part of the webinar on. AI use cases in legal. The first one we want to talk about is legal invoice review. As I'm walking through how to include or think about AI in these use cases, I'm also intentionally including other non-technology steps in the process. For example, in this use case, legal invoice review starts with matter management guidelines because AI, just like every other technology, isn't magic. It's another tool that combined with the right people and the right process can help unlock even greater value for legal departments. A holistic view is required for great execution. So you see in the left there, we start with the matter management guidelines. Those have to be clear, they have to be aligned, they have to be distributed, they have to be understood by your law firms and your internal users. Then you need to have an enterprise legal management tool. You need to be able to use e-billing, your matter management, and your knowledge management. All of those are key because those are the collectors of your information that you'll be using to drive your models to make these informed decisions. Next, you have to have data governance. You have to make sure that you have the data you expect, it's the right quality, it's consistent, and it's enforced. If we don't have the right data quality feeding into our AI models, we're never going to get good results out. The next step is the addition of natural language processing. We're going to use our mining, our parsing, and transformation to drive that understanding, that untapped value of, for example, comments in our invoices that we've never really had a great way to handle before, aside from UTM-S codes, and drive that into our machine learning algorithms, combine it with our structured data and our natural language processing modules to actually generate a significant improvement in invoice review, much more automation, and a lot more context-specific suggested improvements on an invoice. The next use case is outside counsel selection, one of the holy grails. Historically, legal departments have not been able to compare the cost of outside counsel on a case-by-case basis. It's not been possible to adjust for cost due to outcome, complexity, opposing party, and other really significant factors, because all of that data was in unstructured portions of our data set or enterprise legal management software. The tools are now available to start systematically to be able to adjust for those complexities and feed it into our reporting, our total case outcomes. Let's see how this comes together. On the top there, we have to start with a panel design. We have to understand who we're using, what practice areas and what jurisdictions, what specialties they are, what rates they have, what are their diversity, all the metadata that we need to understand about our law firms. We need to, again, have good data governance. We have to have the right quality. It has to be complete. We have to have correct and accurate information about our law firms and how we've used them. Then we start to apply our natural languages processing tools into several sources of data, our enterprise legal management data, our knowledge management data, and our other modern content data. For example, if you're an insurance company, information around your claims. We combine all of that information into a multivariate analysis, and we are able to separate and statistically analyze different law firms and their performance, and keeping those really important factors separate, such as the practice area or jurisdictions, the law firm, the partner, and the complexity. We then can transform and combine that data to make it user-friendly. We can augment it with survey data and other types of firm metadata, and we can visualize that and give that to users via filters, vendor suggestions, and real-time dashboards. It's context-specific so that people are able to use that right information right at the time that they need to make, for example, an outside counsel selection, review overall law firm performance. The third one, we all have lots of information our groups are reacting to and processing every day. Workflow tools are a way to bring order out of that chaos. And to use those, the most effective use of those workflow tools are to start with problem areas. Find out what's overwhelming your operations groups, what's bothering your law firms, business partners, and legal ops people, and start with those big areas where there's a lot of volume of data coming in. And then start with identifying priorities. Find areas large volume, processes that are hidden in Outlook, where you have lots of non-standard requests. Start to take a look at those processes, understand them, and start to do some basic process design. Get some lean processes, eliminate your unnecessary steps. Find areas where you're getting lots of requests that are unstructured or requests that are called not in good order, NIGO, and where you don't get all the information you need to actually fulfill the request. And where we don't get the right information to the right person at the right time. Once you've got a good design, then start to digitize the workflow. Choose easy to configure workflow tools, such as the TAP Think Automation Workflow tool, and start to install the basic metrics. Those tools are great for quickly setting up your workflows and getting some real business value quickly. As you've operationalized those, then you're going to be considering more advanced process metrics. You're going to be thinking about your SLAs. You're going to be thinking about your cycle times, your defects, your rework loops. You'll continue to do your process optimization. And then begin your automation, where you're adding in your robotic process automation and your integrations so that you've taken a process very unstructured, highly manual, and via some very well understood and prescriptive steps have completely automated a process, and you can therefore leverage your people to higher value work. The next section is about the AI, the legal AI maturity. Maturity charts are a useful guide for people looking to drive changes in their organizations and benchmark themselves to peers. For those beginning a change project in AI, ELM, data governance, legal operations maturity, or other areas, the maturity chart gives a path forward. The point of a maturity chart is that no matter where your organization is, there's always next steps that you can consider driving to add value to how you operate. This is an AI maturity chart for some of the use cases we discussed today. The first column is the area of focus, and then the other columns walk you through high level what are table stakes, just getting started, what's advanced, and what truly is innovative in our space today. For example, in legal decision making, which broadly speaking is early case assessments, bill reviews, table stakes are dashboards for insight at the point of action on structured data. So these are people are using our data warehouses, our virtualization tools, our dashboards, the live dashboards in the context of where you're working. Advanced in the space now is dashboards for insight at the point of action. You're using on structured and unstructured data. And to do that, you're starting to use data cubes to drive the speed of your visualization tools. You're having manually created NLP algorithms that you have to manually update, and you're using some visualization tools. Innovative right now is using nuanced suggestions for action based on machine learning algorithms for structured and unstructured data, utilizing data cubes, machine learning algorithms, and contextual visualization tools. For workflow automation, when we're looking to automate those high volume, low complexity work and free up human potential, table stakes these days are people that have their processes identified and understood. They've got a process inventory. They have some standard operating procedures. Advanced people are using lean process design and beginning to use workflow tools. So you're using workflow tools and basic visualization. And truly innovative people now have processes refined via advanced process metrics, have started to automate them via reverse robotic process automation, robust integrations, and advanced visualization to find how their operations are actually performing and driving continuous improvement. We'll now pause for some questions.
Once again, guys, if you want to text those questions in to us, we'll be glad to get to them. I already see one here, Brian, and I'm going to ask you to answer it. Are there certain practice areas that are going to benefit more from AI in the future than others?
I think in the fullness of time, most of the practice areas are going to, but in the short time, I would suggest focusing on high volume, lower complexity practice areas, number one, and number two, where you spend the most money. You're going to be able to drive understanding and drive value for organizations in the areas where you have either the most internal spend or the most external spend.
I'll go ahead and take the next one. What is Mitratech doing in terms of AI? Primarily research. So our product management team is continuously looking at trends and looking at the challenges within our clients. Our clients represent as much as 30% of the Fortune 500. So from that viewpoint, we get a lot of fantastic information, and we're heavily investing in R&D, which is one of the things that excites me about working at Mitratech in general is the amount of R&D work that we do. In fact, I can tell you guys that several of the vendors who are talking about AI in this space today, our R&D budget itself is bigger than their annual revenue. So we're doing a lot. However, what we won't do is claim that we have AI before we actually do. I have another one here for you, Brian. What is the role of natural language progression in case management software? Do you know how that helps lawyers at all?
Sure. Natural language processing will be used anywhere that we want to have machines be able to go in and gather information about in the case management and bring that information so that we can make it reportable, so that we can make it actionable, and so that we can drive workflow and decision making. So natural language processing would help alert us where we have issues or where there's changes, and to be able to report on those. So it helps us take natural language processing and make it actionable by machines. We humans use language so ubiquitously, it's so embedded into what we are, we take for granted that machines cannot do that at all. So the natural language processing algorithms help make the computer make sense of that so that we can tell the computer what we want it to do with it. Great question. Let's see, I see we got a couple more here. Okay, great question here on customers are protecting what they consider confidential information. As I understand how AI would work, the platform would have access to your data to be able to read it. Are legal customers considered with confidential, proprietary, or trade secret information? What measures are they typically putting in place to address those concerns? That's a great question. It directly goes to some of the comments we talked about earlier about data governance. AI is not going to be a replacement for the great data protections that you guys already have deployed. You already have user groups, you've already got security functions, you're hiding confidential data, you're hiding HR data, you're hiding personally identifiable information. All of those things are going to need to continue, and it's absolutely a dimension that you're going to have to put in to your AI work as you're rolling out these tools. In fact, it's a level of complexity. I think what's really interesting about that also, though, is you have to make sure that you're maintaining the individual data elements, but you still may be able to deliver value at summarized data elements without exposing confidential information. But AI will not be a replacement for standard and really thorough data governance, as we mentioned earlier in the webinar. Great, we've got some more questions here. I'm just going through. Do you see AI being used effectively in patentability at the United States Patent Office? That's a great question. I'm just reading that one because I hadn't thought about that one myself. And in fairness, I'm not a patent attorney. I do think that these types of tools will be very useful in finding similar types of documents. So I gave an example of predictive coding using exemplars earlier in the presentation. And that type of machine learning and AI is really good for finding documents that are similar. So when you're starting, is a new idea or new concept patentable, you have to decide if there's something significantly similar to this already in existence. And the AI tools will be a great addition to that tool set for the patent office. That's a great question that I hadn't thought about before, so I like that one. Let's see. Let's answer a couple more. Yeah, blockchain. That's a fun one. It's also mentioned in AI conversations. Does this have an application in the legal firm context? Blockchain is a really great AI or advanced technology that helps us digitally understand step by step in a very open manner what has changed in documents. So, or change in documents, change in cryptocurrencies. Obviously, it's critically used in that area, and it makes it very transparent to people what the steps have been, what have changed, and if people go in and try to make changes after the fact. So we're starting to see use cases around that in insurance documents, in very big, complicated contracts that are especially multinational, where you have whole bunches of moving clauses and moving subclauses of very complicated agreements. So I definitely think that there's going to be more applications like that. That's a fun one. How can NLP solve it for the users? Sure, I think I understand the general context there. NLP is going to help users in all parts of your organization as it matures and as you find really relevant use cases to deploy the technology. And it'll do that by taking a whole bunch of the unstructured text all the things in your notes and your documents and emails, and being able to bring those in to your analytical models, help you make decisions better and faster, and give you access to details about cases and details about invoices that are critical to how you would make decisions, but in an automated way. So the computer is able to process millions of records, whereas humans would have trouble with more than just a couple. So it'll give you so much more access to a lot more granular data that should help end users in a number of use cases, some of which we talked about today. Okay, let's find one more here. Will AI tools lead to more integrated approach across departments? Yeah, wouldn't that be great? I definitely think so. A big difficulty in any large corporation is understanding all of the information and all the things that are going on in a big department. And the reason it's so difficult to understand what's going across departments, sometimes, in full disclosure, even in your own department, is because they're all talking their own language. They're largely communicating completely unstructured emails or unstructured comments and notes and documents and PowerPoints. Natural language processing and some of these AI tools, machine learning, will be some of the tools that enable us to sort through that and actually understand the key trends and the key ideas and the key problems. What are people talking about? What are things going on in the organization that'll help us look across organizations in a very dramatic way? Well, I'll be honest, I think that one's a few years out. It's not easy to do just some of the use cases that we showed today. I think that's going to take some time. Great. Okay, one last one, I guess. Stephen's pointing at one.
I'll take this one. How do we predict that AI will be made available in the future? Will it be SaaS? Will it be leased? Will it be other? I think that's going to depend. I think it's going to be all the above. I do think that in general, what we see in the market is a lot more SaaS leased commercial models. However, it really is dependent on how that AI is packaged up. Is it within a tool or platform that you use already? Or is it a separate add-on or best-in-class software that you're adding on to some of the technology you use? If it's offered on its own, it's far more likely to be SaaS or leased. But if it's part of something you already use, it may be optional to buy it the exact same way that you purchase it and deploy it today. It's just kind of dependent. So just to summarize this up, AI is going to have a significant impact in legal. That much I think we can all agree on, all saw today, and absolutely believe is true. Learn the basics. Today was just a start. Learn more. Think about how these tools can drive value in your department, and take steps in your own maturity model and really evaluating where you guys are at before making decisions to move forward. Develop and deploy a multi-phase plan, and then choose your partners carefully. Thank you so much for attending. Just to remind everyone, we will be sharing a recording of this presentation. We'd love to hear more about your departments and ideas. Feel free to connect with either one of us via LinkedIn, or if you want more information about MetroTech, info@metrotech.com. Thank you all so much and have a wonderful afternoon.